All right, I call to order the Lake Mills City Council meeting for June 11th, 2020. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fields?
Here.
Diane?
Oh, June 16th. What did I say?
11th.
Oh, I'm blind. I don't have my glasses on, sorry.
I'm here.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Mr. Fritsch?
Here.
Ms. Schmidt?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. But if you can, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moves us on to item 4, correction and approval of the City Council meeting minutes of June 2nd. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we get the roll call vote, please?
Diane?
Abstain.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Abstain.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Motion passed.
All right, thank you. Correspondence, item 5. Is there anybody who'd like to start with some correspondence?
I received a couple emails about the trails in Tyranina Park, and both for and against, and an observation by one person from out of town that there seem to be a lot of trails, but seems to be a very hot topic.
I received quite a bit of correspondence. I probably had 15, 20 emails on the Tyrania Park. Also received a couple phone calls, talked to some constituents. Received emails Steve sent, or Mr. Wilkie sent about the South Main Garage and about the electronics recycling. What else was there? I think that'll take care of it for this week. And there was quite a bit of them about the gathering in the park last weekend too. There was a lot of emails that went back and forth and from a few of the people in town and some phone meetings.
Okay.
I did have a couple calls. Both were about wanting weekly recycling pickup. These were people with families, and they are overflowing in 1 week.
I received several emails about Tyrannia Park issue and one phone call on the same.
So I did get 3 emails, some for the trails, and there was one email in there that was kind of interesting, and I got some information from our city attorney, which was kind of interesting, how the park came to be. So if anybody wants to know about that, let us know. It's kind of interesting how that was willed, and then how it, the basic trust of it, it looks like it ended in 2001. Is that what we were saying?
The
stipulations?
Yeah, there was a stipulation in order in a case from 1980 where the last beneficiary of the trust, it appears, acquiesced to the public purpose of park use out there ending rather than being in perpetuity, ending in December 31st of 2001, based on a stipulation in order from a case in 1980.
Gotcha, yeah, because Tyranina Park went into, what was it, probate in 1919, the will?
Correct, 1919,
Yeah, then
Updike will.
It was set to be called Tyranina Park in perpetuity and used for that purpose. So it's kind of interesting reading if anybody is interested in that stuff.
I should say, Robin Utz has been a great help in this process with me. She's provided a lot of documentation, a lot of historical information that has really been very helpful.
Nice.
Yep.
And the last one I had was today about the public piers at some of the locations in town, about some violations based on ordinances that we already have in town, based on our code, the way we have it written, and the signs that are out there, and how we enforce it. And just so everybody knows, with stuff like that, we don't have people out there looking for this stuff. If it's reported to us through the police will come down there and check this stuff out. And there is violations for certain things that are happening down there. So there was a couple issues that weren't quite clear, and they're gonna go to the Parks Board to see if we can find some recommendations between the swimmers and fishing off the piers, and I guess we'll see where that goes through the Parks Board. Last thing I want to say, and while the staff and I are figuring things out, I did let all the chairs of the current commissions and boards that are working right now, let them know that those folks that are in that chair position are going to stay there unless they tell me otherwise for right now, and then we'll work on getting the appointments finalized. All right, does anybody else have anything? Is that it? All right. That moves us on to questions and public comment. One note before you get up there, there's 2 baskets of pens. One is sanitized pens, and the other one is a bucket for you to put them back in, or to put them in after you're done using them. So question and public comment. The public is encouraged to address the council at this time regarding items on the agenda. If your comment pertains to a public hearing, which we don't have tonight, you're asked to hold your comments until the hearing. Public comments may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you register with the city clerk before the meeting has been called to order. The state's open meeting law discourages actions by the council on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments listed to 3 minutes and state your name and address when starting your comments, and fill out the sign-in sheet. All right, you're up.
Patrick Doyle, 325 East Washington Street, Lake Mills. This goes back to an item my wife and I, Mary, came and addressed with you a couple months ago about pedestrian crossing signs on Lake Street by our business, and we are very pleased to come back and say that those signs have been installed. And we thank you, and for the young families in the area, we thank you as well.
Do they seem to be working?
Yes. And there's a lot of young families coming in, so yes.
Been busy down there.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay with my mask on?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, City Council members and staff. My name is Lisa Curler, and I live at 369 West Prospect Street. And I did register with Misty ahead of time just to give public comment. I wrote all of you on June 1st with an email with concerns about the hot topic that was mentioned, the mountain bike trails at Tyranina Park. And I just wanted to follow up in person. Since then, I've learned that the Lake Mills Parks Board did hear a proposal from a group of volunteers back in January of 2019, and that the Parks Board at that time approved a preliminary plan for a mountain bike trail in Upper Tyranina Park. And the plan that they approved would be laid out, maintained, and signed by the volunteer group under the direction of the Parks Director. I think mountain biking is a great outdoor activity for exercise and fresh air, and I really appreciate, when the initiative and the hard work of these volunteers that want to improve our recreation in Lake Mills. But I do have a couple of concerns that I'll be bringing to the Parks Board tomorrow, their meeting tomorrow night. First, it seems to me that the Park Board's action last year did not seek any input from any other park users and didn't have any kind of a planning process. And so it essentially gave free rein to one interest group to build trails in a public park, which I don't think was appropriate. Second, the actual trail construction on the ground has gone well beyond what was in the preliminary plan that was attached to the Park Board minutes, and that suggests to me that there's not enough city oversight for the volunteers. So as I mentioned before, I do plan to attend the Parks Board meeting tomorrow night, and I'll express my concerns. And I'll be asking them to initiate a process so that there can be a little bit more planning where all Lake Mill citizens can provide some input on a final plan that represents all the users before any further trail development occurs at Tyranina Park. And I would just hope that the city council would support that kind of a process, and will ask for a final plan to be submitted to the city council for your approval. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have one person left. Do you plan on speaking? Come on up.
Good evening. Just here to introduce myself. My name's Chris Ruskin. I'm with Badgerland Disposal. We're a local waste hauling and recycling services company, and I'm really just here tonight to introduce myself and listen on your discussion on the topic. I believe it's in 9 council business, and here if I can be of any input or opinion or guidance as another set of eyes and ears in the industry. We're just interested in any potential partnership or opportunity to become a service partner for the community in the future, and here to listen in, and that's really my purpose tonight.
Thank you. Welcome. All right. With that, questions and public comments will close, and we'll go on to Steve for city manager's report.
I provided you a few documents. One was the typical bill comparison for Lake Mills from WPPI. And you'll note that we did really well on residential, not bad in commercial, and fair and industrial. Also, there is a picture survey for aquatic invasive species signs placement that'll be going on from the Boy Scouts, actually an Eagle Scout project. Came over from Hope. And then the 2020 utilities check register is there. Are there any questions about anything? I note that South Main Street is very close to being complete. They're finishing up the concrete on the side streets. They are working on the streetlights on the west side. They will start the grading and seeding here probably the beginning of next week or sometime this week yet. And so they will be, I'm pretty sure they'll be complete, substantially complete by the deadline. And actually the street should be pretty much open to traffic. Side streets will still have some issues because they're going to obviously have to come in and do asphalt joints there to match them up with the existing street. Mud Lake Road, they're getting ready to pour the curb on that, on the County Highway A portion, and they hope to have the asphalt in a week later or shortly thereafter. And so that County Highway A can get opened up coming into the south side there again too. So that should be done about the same time that Main Street project is complete. They are redoing a portion of the sidewalk and curb at Steve's Car and Truck. It's got tilted back, and so the water runs into the building. So they came in and have decided to make some changes that when we originally talked about it, they didn't propose, but now that it's a problem, they propose to lower the curb some. So instead of a full 6-inch curb, it'll be about 4.5 inches, but it'll run away from the building rather than into it. Other than that, I don't have anything unless you...
I was just wondering, because I haven't been able to look myself, on Highway A, has the county done what they were going to do with that curve?
They are starting. They gave us notice that they were going to start. I haven't actually been out that far because you can't get through and I'd have to go all the way around, and I'm not interested in that right now. But their portion is kind of off track, so you can continue to use the existing road and get to wherever you get up to where we're constructing. And they'll build their section there, and then they'll shut the road down for a day or two and tie into the two ends.
Okay.
The only question is that I've heard that they are looking at finishing the paving all the way around the south end of the lake to where they stopped paving last year.
And if they do that, if they mill that and come in and lay new asphalt on that, that may stretch that time period where the road is closed. But generally, that's open at the night because they'll mill it and you can drive on it, and then they'll pave it, and it's generally done in a day or two, and you can drive on it when they're done.
Thank you.
Are all the corrections done to Mulberry Street? Are we ready to sign off on that?
No. I know that there were some changes that they were making on Fargo to the east, and that there are some asphalt paving issues yet, and some water and sanitary sewer issues, in that the manholes were unusually low or the valves were unusually low, so we're figuring out how to correct those. So the asphalt is pretty much done. We're waiting for an agreement. The other work will have to be completed, so they are going to have to cut out 5 manholes and raise them. The agreement also, they'll be raising some of the water valves, but those are easier because you just spin those. If you can't spin them all the way up, you can spin them, maybe you can spin them down a little bit, then put in an additional extension in them. So they're a little bit easier to do. But those are the kinds of things that I know of. And I haven't even looked at the state's full punch list. Those are pretty much ours. So I knew Holly had quite a list of items on the punch list. The only one that I know of that for sure that they worked on was the grading and seeding.
For everyone's information, do you have any idea on when the repairs on the interstate and County Trunk Q Bridge, so on, will be finished or anywhere approximate?
No, I can't give you that information. I know that it's supposed to run all summer long. So someplace between Milwaukee and Madison, they'll be working in that. And the bridges will definitely be out there for a while, especially the one at Q, because that was a pretty substantial tear down and rebuild.
Yeah, I can't tell you, my neighbor works for a company that does a lot of the bridge building and things like that. And during the shutdown, stuff that would take them 3 to 4 months, they were doing in a month. So if we stay partially closed down, it might not take quite as long. But
Must be a marvel of planning to get all that stuff done at nighttime and have everything arranged and people where they're supposed to be and
yeah,
getting it done between dusk and dawn.
I tell you, you can hear those jackhammers on the big hose running all night long. You can hear the vibrators on the dump trucks when they're dumping their asphalt. So yeah, there's a lot going on out there, and they've been using County Highway V heavily for dump trucks hauling off that Q project.
so I see that Networks got their antennas up on the water tower.
They put them on the water tower, but they didn't take the temporary
Yeah, I saw that.
framework down yet. So
Yeah. Progress. We're
Yeah.
making progress.
I guess you asked for little things, huh?
That's right. Take the little wins.
Are they using the ones on the
Yeah.
tower?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all switched over now. They have to come back in and take that temporary tower down.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody else have anything for Steve?
Just, have we heard anything about the one that's supposed to be right behind us here?
No, I have not. The only thing I know is that they were doing an environmental this year, and they paid their fee. So they've kept their right to build a tower there.
And that's Verizon, right?
That's Verizon, yeah.
I'd just like to pass on a thank you to all the different staff and departments that came in and supported the peaceful protest on Saturday. A lot of folks in town gave up their Saturday to stand by and support the activities.
Yeah, my understanding is the officers that were out there was all volunteer time, from what I was told.
I know that we have firemen on standby.
Yep, firemen on standby,
We have public works people on standby.
EMS, yeah. And it was very calm. Just a couple counter protesters that wanted to drive their big pickup trucks around the park really loudly with their Confederate flags, so, but that was it. Okay, last chance. Anything else for Steve? All right, let's move on to item 8, the acceptance of the minutes of the Zoning Board of Appeals of March 4th, 2020, the Housing Authority public hearing, and the board minutes from that zoning authority of March 24th, 2020 will go on record as written. That moves us to item 9, council business. Miscellaneous licenses, the private cigarette renewal. So it's kind of, I didn't get a chance to ask a question about this. What are we doing on this? I thought we,
They had submitted their application, which went in with the group with the, or it went in as an item when we had the consent, but it was a separate item for a new one, which that one then technically only takes them through June 30th. So this one would go into effect July 1st. So when all the other ones, which were renewals, go into effect July 1st, that's what this one is, for July 1st.
so.
So their original one was a new for the current licensing
Gotcha.
period.
So since there isn't any motion, we do need somebody to make a motion to approve this application for the cigarette and tobacco products retail license for Crawfish Junction at Sandy Beach.
So move.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, and unless anybody has any comments on this. All right, let's call the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Item 9B, motion on Big Ol' Wraps. Could you read that title for us, please, Misty?
City Council Motion 20-6-2-1, directing the city manager to execute an agreement with Forever 221 LLC, DBA Big Ol' Wraps for the provision of seasonal food truck concession services at Sandy Beach Park.
All right, do I have a motion of adoption for this?
I move approval of motion 20-6-2-1.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. So, I read through here. Is there anything that you think we ought to know about this? What have they told you about the different hours and things that they're going to be available?
Out of all of the vendors that have applied, Big Ol' Wraps is the one that plans on having the most coverage out on site. They're looking at basically daily during the week from, I think, it was 11 to 7-ish. It'll be determined by the crowd that's out there, but they're planning on being there regularly. A lot of these food truck vendors and concessionaires have experienced a big downturn in their business because there are no festivals and everything like that. So they've come to us and they're very thankful for the opportunity to work out there. So serious coverage from them.
Has the arrangement been worked out as to?
There's an updated map, and we have permanent placement for all of the planned vendors at this time, assuming that the council does approve each of their licenses. Crawfish is the only one that has a liquor license or a beer license out there. All of the others are just food vendors. And they all have specifically designated locations. And while there's some overlap in the actual scheduling of the entities being out at the beach, it's a pretty broad coverage and pretty complete coverage. I hope that they can all kind of coexist out there and no one's really stepping on each other's toes too much.
For the vendors who are going to be out in the parking lot, are they going to open up that section of fence where we took the
Not,
restaurant
not
down?
to the parking lot. There will be a mechanism for them to open it to access, to enter, to park their vehicle, but there won't be free flow from the parking lot to the park area. You'll still have to go through the stand, essentially.
Their
You
trailers will
you can
actually be inside
access
the
the
fence?
business from the beach side.
Okay.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was curious about that because we have people down there now at the park that are monitoring inbound traffic. So,
And so I was there on Saturday. I don't have my Sandy Beach pass yet, but I was there with my daughters, or two of my daughters, and just kind of explained to the person that was working, and she was very, very willing to let us in just to get food and leave again. We were obviously not going to attend the beach. We didn't have swimsuits and
Well,
stuff.
the nice thing now is you can pick your passes up right there at the gate, so you can just
Oh, I didn't
request
even
it.
know
You can
that.
sign
Yes.
for it right there.
That's excellent. I didn't know
That's where I
that.
got mine last week. That's very handy. I like
Should have
that.
done that.
what did you have to show them?
Just your driver's license, show your residency.
Okay. Do we know what all they're going to be serving besides different kinds of wraps? Are they doing,
So they did provide a menu. I believe it's attached to the
yeah,
document. They haven't really given us any idea of extras. I assume that they're going to have some form of beverage service. I assume maybe some form of snacks, but the wraps and the fried foods and the sides and stuff is really what they do.
okay. It's upside down.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. Next page.
Burger wraps. That's gonna, people are gonna like that. There's a lot of people asking me about burgers down there.
Crawfish did add them to their menu.
Did they?
A cheeseburger
A
specifically.
cheeseburger? Okay. A lot of people have been asking for that down there, so. All right. Is there any other questions, or are there any other questions?
The financial agreements look pretty much the same for all of them?
Yeah, they all agreed to the exact same agreement with regard to their hourly rate that they're paying the city. The Doyle's Dogs is the third applicant on the agenda tonight. They did negotiate to simply do a flat $2.50 per hour rate rather than calculating and potentially paying a 5% fee. We figured that was appropriate based on what his coverage is going to be and
Menu.
really the manner in which he's going to be there. It's not as big of an impact, and his coverage is going to be a little bit more fluid, I think is kind of the right word. He's going to be there regularly, but he has a lot of flexibility and obviously has a number of different businesses around town and such. So.
Last question I had concerns the parking for the folks that are working there. Obviously, parking's at a premium down there. Have we thought about asking them to park up at the park on the other side of the trailer?
The request hasn't been made. I have discussed with them to consolidate, to limit as much parking as possible. The Crawfish will have more vendors there. The other entities seem to be either a two-man show or a one-man show, and then Mr. Doyle has his employees that, I mean, we haven't really addressed that aspect of it, but you're right, parking is at a premium, so
Yeah.
it's probably something to be considerate of.
Yeah, that's something we talked about not too long ago. And I think from like June 1st to June 9th, there was 36 parking violations given down there. So obviously, parking's a big issue. Okay,
We don't have a motion yet, do we?
yes.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Sure do. If there's nothing else, we can call the roll call vote on this, please.
Mr. Fritsch?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you. Item 9C, when you're ready, could you please read the title of that?
City Council Motion 20-6-2-2, directing the city manager to execute an agreement with Doyle's Dogs LLC for the provision of seasonal food truck concession services at Sandy Beach Park.
All right, I would ask for a motion for this, motion of adoption or whatever recuse?
So move.
That's for adoption?
Yes.
Second.
Second. All right. You already mentioned pretty much all of the stuff already for this. I don't think I have any questions. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Doyle that we would need to suspend the rules? No?
Looks good to me.
Yeah. Okay. Then we can move on with the roll call vote, please.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
And I think a lot of people are looking forward to you being down there, so.
Thank you for coming tonight, too.
All right, item 9D, could you read the title, please, for that one?
City Council Motion 20-6-2-3, directing the city manager to execute an agreement with Toucan Smoke Barbecue for the provision of seasonal food truck concession services at Sandy Beach Park.
And I would entertain a motion of adoption on this one.
So move.
Second.
All right. What were the hours on this one? I've so many.
He was looking at weekends and then a limited time during the week,
Yeah,
probably mid-afternoon to mid-evening. But again, almost every day, depending on the weather.
okay.
Definitely on the weekends. He has a bigger process to get started. He barbecues everything and smokes everything. He said his startup was 3 to 4 hours.
6.
6? Yeah,
So
okay.
he has to be there like 6 o'clock in the morning to be ready to serve at noon.
Okay. Will there be any problem with access?
No,
Well, we have it figured out.
Okay.
Rob, he and Rob talked about that. The park is open from midnight till 4, or closed midnight to 4, but that shouldn't make any difference for him.
And I'm assuming that, I'm looking at his proposal, handwritten one here, items 7A, B, and C. I'm assuming those were just references.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for this item? Then please call the roll call vote.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you. Item 9E, we are going to be talking about an RFP for solid waste. This is just a discussion, so I don't think we don't have to make any motions on any of this. So we did find out that our contract expires at the end of this year, correct, with John's? And while I'm not sure we've had big problems with them, we've had some changes that have, I don't know, brought up some concerns, at least in my eyes, with them, and maybe not others, but we're considering putting a request for proposals out there to see what else might be available, and this goes along the lines of, people have talked to me and asked me specifically about getting the pickup of recycles every week, and I know they've talked to you about that. I talked to you about that, Steve, and you had mentioned that for your family your size, it wouldn't be a bad idea. With John's, I believe it was like an extra $235 per house, per month.
$215, I think, but something like that.
Something like that, yeah, something like that, to add it in there. And then the changes with the bulk pickup and the problems that we had implementing it, and,
I think that's gotten much better, though.
well, yeah, I thought so until my neighbor had stuff sitting out there for a week and a half in front of his house. And I could never get a hold of him to find out what was going on, but he had just lumber and you name it sitting out there for a week and a half. And,
Did you call Brian?
yeah, finally, and then they came and picked stuff up, but the person across the way didn't want to call. It was just hoping someone would come and take it. So we end up with that situation out there. I don't know how often it is, but I've seen it on multiple occasions. So anyway, I'll stop right there. Steve, you and I looked at this, and I'll let you go with it, let you give us some info.
Well, this is a structured RFP, so it's a request for proposals, and it kind of spells out what we're looking for, what we would be looking for. It gives alternates, so it gave, there were some things that weren't alternates that we do currently have, but you probably don't know about it as much as that there are multiple cart sizes you can request. So if you have a lot of recycling, you should call and request to get a bigger bin. I did. I still fill mine up. So we did ask for an alternate for weekly bids to see if that's worth it. And then there was another one that I sent you on the electronic devices. And John said it would be like 55 cents a month additional for that. But you'd have to give up your bulk pickup for that month.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of change in there. But that's in here as an alternate bid. It requires it spells out a lot more in the contract than it was originally put in John's contract. So it's got all the additional information that they have to keep and provide. It requires them to do a certain amount of tagging. It has a lot of vehicle information that has to be provided. It does go into the single stream recycling and the automated pickup. It talks about bulk and how that'll be picked up, what the expectations are on bulk items. Talks about how the contract will be structured and how it'll be spread out. So there's you go through here and you get an idea of what you're looking at for a possible contract in the future. And then seeing what the bids would come in like. And then they have to provide bids, we review them, they come to you, and you make the final determination. It also talks about, when the term of the contract ends and there's a new provider, how you have to provide the information to the new contractor and those types of things. That's not necessarily available in our current contract. So it goes through a lot of items that probably haven't been specified. I'm probably within 20 pages of being done.
Yeah.
When do the bids have to be turned in by?
Well, we would want that up and running on January 1st.
But when do they have to give us the offers?
That's not in here yet.
Oh.
You haven't authorized me to go out for an RFP yet, so this is the beginning.
Okay.
I'm imagining, historically what happens is they submit their proposal to us in September, and we've accepted their extensions. But if we hadn't to write an RFP, we've discussed this to write an RFP and get it ready to go. In that time period would be impossible unless we got them to extend for like 3 months, as it would take that amount of time to get something like this put together and out to bid and reviewed and before the council and approved. So I'm assuming that if we do this somewhere around, we're probably going to get our official notice from them in August, late August. So if we have this ready to go in late August, we could have it ready to be approved and up and running in January
Yeah.
1st.
Are we able to get a sense or a feel of how much recycling has increased per household in that city? With this whole COVID thing, I'm sure people are getting a lot more home deliveries. You got a lot more packaged stuff that's going into recycling now.
I haven't looked. It's a report that comes to the finance director, I think. Does it go to Misty? Okay, it goes to Misty. And I haven't seen it, so I couldn't tell you. I know that the market hasn't been there from what I understand.
Yeah.
So,
That might just help having some of that information when we sit down and make a decision on whether we do weekly or bi-weekly, and to see if this kind of trend continues for home delivery.
Yeah. That
Help
also
out.
brings up the point of the other piece that we talked about, the polling software. Possibility of creating a quick one-question poll or survey and have that available where it could go out on our Facebook sites, it could go out by email, it could go out by a bunch of different media, it could go on the website, and people could click on it. They would just have to register, so we would know that they're an actual Lake Mills city citizen. And then they could answer the question, we could get some good metrics. So it's something that we've talked about for, gosh, what, 3-4 weeks now. Steve has the software and he's been working with it. So I think that would be a good trial run of it when you feel comfortable with it, of asking questions like that. It
Yeah,
can
I'm
be
gonna
used for a
have to-
lot more.
I sent you a email this afternoon about the company, and you could see what kind of surveys they've been doing and polls. I have to get with Corey and do some final work on structuring the question and the responses. I'm assuming they're basic yes/no questions, and that they're a very straightforward, simple question, but would you pay an extra fee for, how much would you be willing to pay in an extra fee, or would you be willing to pay $2.50 extra for
Right.
an extra
And that's-
pickup? Would you be willing to pay an extra 55 cents for this type of pickup?
Right.
And we would continue to pull those types of questions out there. I need to work with Corey on those types of issues. Obviously, not everybody needs all the extra items that are available. So this contract kind of makes a bid item where the individual can contract with the contractor for those extra items, and he has a fee schedule that he's provided us for what he would be charging them for certain types of additional services, or we could just provide them across the board if they're universally liked. But we got the new budget software in, so I'm working on that. And then we got this polling software, and it's a little bit, it's not as simple as just hopping on and writing a question and sending it out. So I'm hoping that I can get to it sometime July, August.
Yeah, and I think as soon as you can, it'd be nice to try something like that and see if it'll work out for us. In a perfect world, I would like to see pickup of both every week. And I would like to be able to have, the bulk pickup, at least once a month. But I would also like to be able to do electronic recycling here easier than what it seems like it is right now for some of the stuff. I know John's will pick it up if you call them and you pay them the extra. But if there was a contract that fit that in already,
You pay all of it. Someone pays it.
yeah,
I mean, it's not like you're getting it for free. It's not, the insinuation that something was being gotten for free is
Yeah,
not
no,
true.
yeah, you're right.
You-
Nobody's getting
Everything
it
is
for
paid for
free.
in some form or fashion.
But-
The question is how. So if everybody's contributing 55 cents and there is a group that's benefiting from it hugely, and but a much larger group isn't benefiting from it at all, is that fair? Okay, these are the types of debates that you're then going to have, particularly on the recycling one, because like you said, my family, which is 10 people, probably has a lot more recycling than a family of one or
Right.
two. And they wouldn't need that service, and so making it something that you can contract with is different. I have the same logic for the bulk pickup that I do for how we went to our brush pickup, is that I don't appreciate heavy garbage trucks driving up and down every street every month looking for bulk pickup. Because that puts an additional weight and mileage on the roadway, and it turns it over faster for maintenance. So if you have a place where you're going directly and you're picking it up, it's good for us, it's good for them. And so those are some of the items that you're also gonna have to start considering when you start debating these items is, well, what's the overall benefit? There's some cost to the city that goes along with that, above and beyond what you would anticipate for just collecting garbage.
That is a good thought, you know. Obviously, it's not a great site to have one pickup spot for all bulk pickup unless you're able to fence it and keep it closed and keep it clean, which is, it never happens.
First thing they start doing is dumping at the outside of the
It
fences.
just starts dumping, exactly.
And if you got cameras and stuff and you're monitoring it, then they start dumping it in, out in the county. And
Yep,
if you can just call and have them come pick it up, and it's a direct site to site. The other benefit is when you're driving the city every week and nobody calls, how much do you have to pick up?
yeah,
If they're calling, you have a good idea of how many trucks you're gonna have to have and how many people you're gonna have to dispatch. If you're just driving the city, one week you could have, 50 truckloads, and one week you could have one. And you don't know. So how do you schedule that? This way, at least, that you have a good idea of what the expectation is and how you're gonna get there. The other one is obviously what they were looking at was how many people you have to have, because if you can make them put it in 30 or 60-pound bins, one guy can probably lift it into the truck. If you got it out there and you've dumped something that weighs 500 pounds out there, one guy isn't going to do it. And so you've got all kinds of problems with being able to understand if you have some level of expectation there, that makes a huge difference in what kind of management goes on with bulk pickup. And that's got to be the toughest one. Most of the rest of them, I think, are pretty easy to handle. Some equity and things like that discussions, but not as many technical issues as bulk pickup brings.
yeah. There needs to be an easy button for it. Something that you can put by your trash can, just hit and say, oh, they need a bulk pickup this week.
There are a lot of cities that allow you to do your own contracting. And we would have 6 or 7 different contractors driving every street every week. And you
Wow.
talk about,
Yeah, that's,
so when you get here and you're seeing one, that was great. And then when we went to the call-in for the bulk, that was even better. Because, it's trying to keep up with street maintenance is always a problem. So the less miles, the better you're going to be. So.
still not a fan of it, but that's just my opinion. Guess I'm stubborn that way. All right, is there anything you need from us on this right now? What do you need us to tell you?
Read it and
I've
think
re-
about it.
Yep,
And if you have any comments, write them down and send them to me.
okay. Do you have a date
If-
when
if
you'd like
there's some
to?
alternate, the single stream on the recycling, I just put automated recycling, and I didn't think, oh yeah, that should be listed as single.
Single stream, yeah, exactly, because we don't,
Those are the kinds of items that
Yep.
read it, look at it. I know Dan and Dwayne will get their shot at it,
yep,
but you guys are the policymakers. If there's some type of policy issue in there that you think is important, that should be in there.
do you have a date of when you would like these answers to you? No later than,
Probably July 31st or.
okay? Sound good? Okay. All right, thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Item 9F, Resolution 20-25. Put my glasses on before I read it wrong. Could you read that resolution for us?
Resolution 20-25, adjustments to impact fees.
Thank you. I just can't get it to pop up. Anybody else have any problems, or just me?
I am having problems.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2025.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. I'm assuming this is you, Steve, or,
No, it's Betsy.
yeah, I knew I'd get that wrong. I was going to say you first, but it shows yours. Let us know what you
Sure.
got.
Well, every year you look at the impact fees. I give you this information based on the average consumer price index from the previous year, and this time the consumer price index was 1.8% increase. So I took all of the rates that are in the sheet and added 1.8% to it, and this is what we've come up with. This is based on the impact fee resolutions.
Does anybody have any questions on this? Any comments on the, I don't know how much they are, because I can't get in there and I didn't have it memorized.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of them. You see that they've got the sanitary sewer is by zones. So when this was amended a few years ago by zones, it had to do with the engineers looking at the costs and the impact of these sewer connections to our facility. You've got the water impact fees and the park impact fee. We no longer have the community center impact fee.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? No, we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and call the roll call vote, please.
Diane?
Aye.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you. Item 10, recommendation for future agendas. Steve, anything that you know for sure?
I assume the Parks Board will be
Parks
sending a
Board.
couple items to us.
Yep, I figured that too.
Planning Commission has got a couple items, some rezones. Other than that, I don't see anything coming forward from staff that I know of.
I'm just kind of curious to poll everybody, if we decided to ask for some branding stuff again, would folks be willing to come in here with their masks, whatever, and would do some sessions with the folks from, was it Cream City?
Yep, Aaron,
Aaron,
she provided us some additional documents that I had sent out.
yeah,
Yeah,
because I
so she's
know,
ready.
yeah, that was some of the stuff that we haven't fully completed yet.
Right.
And I just want to make sure everybody be comfortable with that if we ask Steve to try to find some dates. So, sounds like everybody's okay?
It might be useful if we do one of those sessions to remain seated the way that we are, rather than trying to get close
Sure.
at the tables like we were doing those sessions.
Yep.
I think we'd be more comfortably socially distanced that way.
I agree.
And the information that got sent to us recently, when we get ready to do it again, could you resend it so we don't have to go searching for it?
Yes.
Does anybody else have anything that they think?
I'm just wondering if we can possibly combine that with if we have a small agenda on a same night.
Well, it's possible. It depends on availability for Aaron and her husband if he's showing up. So,
Joel.
yeah,
At least explore that possibly.
yeah, and we'll leave that up to you, Steve, to see what you think works out best.
All right.
Okay. We are going to item 11, convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85 1E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and 19.851G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who's rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved, which it is or is likely to become involved, and 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Do we have a motion to move into closed session?
So move.
Second.
And a second, all right, let's call the roll call vote when you're ready.
Mr. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye,
Motion passed 5-0.
and we remain here.
And we're going to remain here, the cameras will go off, and no public access until we reconvene.
But there will be no action.
Nope, so we are now convened into closed session.